you're going to see a lot of the same information. I agree with everything he said, and hopefully I can add a few extra points that will make a bit of sense. So I'm Bock. On the other side is my co-founder, Abe. I have a long background in deploying enterprise-level software to banks, financial institutions, and so on, which gives me a very process-driven view of risk and where this kind of needs to go. My co-founder has a large background in insurtechs and algorithmically pricing risk for insurance companies, taking large data sets and using that data to correctly predict basically a rate of failure. So the overall state, what is risk posture? It is the ability to prevent, detect, and respond. So in Web3, I think most companies take a fairly myopic view of this. It is a very narrow, as David mentioned as well, ooh, we got an audit, which does not cover nearly enough. 5.8 billion lost to smart contract flaws and fraud in 2023, growing 250% a year. So that number is keeping pace very well with the growth of our ecosystem as a whole. Security, on the other hand, is lagging insanely behind. 5% of people get audited, 1% of those do any kind of continuous monitoring, and the giant crux with audits is they go instantly out of date. You get an audit done, you update a proxy contract, all that good work is literally thrown out the window. It's really finicky. So what we want to do is take a wider view of risk, what we face as both people and projects in this space. So not only contract risk, we want to look at Oracle failure, we want to look at fall downs in teams and process, regulatory hurdles and things that might cripple your company, front-end bugs. I'm sure everybody who saw the Twitter spat between Certic and Kraken will know that it just takes a minor error on the Web 2.0 version, and it allowed them to front-run some contracts and extract millions and millions from one of the larger exchanges in the world. Then there is phishing, and then there is the danger of over-centralization. So once we have a look at all these things, what we need to do is figure out on a per person or per project basis, where do we want to deploy our time and energy, and where are we going to get the most bang for the buck? Do we need to look at the infrastructure, our smart contracts, the way we deploy? Do we need to look at the monitoring? Is it something that changes quite often and needs to be looked at because we have so many people interacting with the contract? Or is it something that is getting updated so often that what we really need is just a crack rapid response team? So as David once again said, the pause and review strategy. So assessing risk just needs to get better. We have an amazing amount of data. What we don't have is information. And once we spend the time to get that information, which information is important and how do we use it? How do we turn information into actionable information that we can trust, rely upon, and effect change with? So doing your own research is now nearly a meme in the space. It is nearly impossible. You oftentimes, as the last speaker, Mark, I think showed, a lot of us are simply incapable of understanding some of the math behind, and we are not qualified to judge. So we need outside agencies to let us know that this is above board and in a transparent, repeatable way. The project owners are in the most danger for a ton of reasons, whether that be legal, financial, regulatory. So if you are starting a project in this space, you need to have an eye on this particular ball. It is incredibly important. So I kind of broke it down into 6 categories that we kind of take a look at personally in Fiducium. There is obviously the technical risk, your smart contract. There is operational risk, how you and your team just operate in the space. There is financial risk, the depth of your liquidity pools, your tokenomics, your unlock schedules. There's the regulatory risk, what pool are you playing in, how much is there danger that probably most notably the US is going to throw a stick in your spokes. Then there is the reputational risk of, well, if you do not defraud people but fuck up, you know, how much trouble are you in on that front? Is your project ever going to recover? And then there is a strategic risk around what if you're building the right thing. There are two main times we can really affect change, right? So post-deploy, we can do code audits. And more importantly, we can have integration straight into your code base that does continuous checks on your code to make sure nothing nefarious is going to get into a state where it could be deployed, as well as looking at your financial logic, your planning, tokenomics, whatever. And then in post-deploy, then we get into monitoring, keeping update, having good security practices, and obviously bug bounties. So the tools for smart contract security, while they are out there, there are many different providers that can provide you static analysis, fuzzing, code audits, simulation, and manual review. This also falls down a bit because they are not always transparent, and it's not clear what they have and have not looked for. So once again, to David's presentation, they don't show what they didn't see, right? So having a transparent set of rules of what has been reviewed, how it was reviewed, and getting that open to people will just increase the level of security throughout the ecosystem. We believe that's really important. For post-deployment tooling, there is, once again, many companies that offer these types of things: monitoring, chain analytics, so you can see what's going on, measuring team history, the amount of social buzz, the semantic analysis of just the general zeitgeist of the feeling about your project. So what we want to do is take all of this, take all these data points, plot them out, and turn them into reliable information. So using linear regression and actuarial methods, we can basically deliver what is colloquially known in the insurance land as a technical underwriter's price. So we return a number that we believe, after backtesting, is the price of failure. And we prove a loss ratio to prove out that price. We are currently in the process of onboarding more and more new clients. We take all this data and we are able to mark our prices in time. When we run an audit and a risk report, we mint that on-chain as an NFT, so we have a provable history of what we said and did. And we can always go back, verify to see if our guesses were correct. And then every time this goes on, we get new learnings that we can feed back into the model to produce better and better results for everybody in the ecosystem. We run out a bit of time, so I kind of blew through that. Also, David pretty much covered everything I was going to talk about in the first half of the thing, so thank you very much. If anyone would like to talk after or any more detail, happy to chat. If you have any serious questions about the linear regression and the actuarial methods implied, my co-founder, who is supposed to be here giving this talk, I will happily connect you on Telegram. And
amazing. This was amazing and very brief. So you have heard. If you have any serious questions or maybe less serious questions, you can speak later. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining NapulETH today.